Testing. Test 1, 2. 2-minute warning. 2 minutes. Testing.
Test, test, test. Who wants to get started?
Testing.
I think that'll be good one. Okay, who can hear me? Can you hear me? Raise your hand. If you cannot hear me, raise your hand. If you cannot hear me, raise your hand. I have this. Can you hear me now? It's not loud, okay. Let me get it. Okay, let's get started. Recording in progress. We're live streaming. Thank you all. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Before we get started, just as a matter of personal privilege, those that are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you for coming. I think I see Commissioner Rachel Friedland here from Aventura, Commissioner Linda Marks from Aventura, Brian Pegues, our Assistant City Manager. I want to thank you all for coming and let you know that this is, I believe, now the second year where we've held a symposium like this, an update, Condo Connect, because the legislative session in Tallahassee just ended. And there are important matters, important pieces of legislation that impact condominiums. We are the flagship condominium municipality in the state of Florida. It impacts virtually all of us. So we like to host these meetings whenever we can. And we're fortunate that we're able to invite guests that are willing to come, people that work very hard in Tallahassee. But first I want to say, where's Daniela Marquez right here, who puts these on for us. Thank you very much. For those of you in the condo management field or on your condo boards, which is, I know, the majority of you, Daniela just became the manager at Bellini on Williams Island, so congratulations, Daniela. And they told her, please keep putting on these events, so that's a good boss. That's a good board, like that board. So basically, up in Tallahassee, there are people that work very hard. 3 of them are here. So our state senator by the way, let me say this. All of these people here represent several cities. So they can't say what I'm going to tell you, which is Aventura is the greatest city in the state of Florida, okay? Greatest city. That is a fact. I'm not shy about giving opinion, but that is a fact. So Senator Jason Pizzo is our state senator. He does a fantastic job, photographic memory, and he serves us well. The other 2 elected officials that are here do not have Aventura in their district, but they have condominiums in their hearts, and they work so hard. I was up there 3 times this past session with some of my commissioners, and they're always working to make it better. Senator Jennifer Bradley is from the Jacksonville area. She doesn't have to do this, ladies and gentlemen. This is not her first rodeo. It's not even the second time she's been here. She comes here because she knows how important it is to us. That is really, truly amazing, and I thank you every time for that. When we were you can clap for that. When we were in Tallahassee, I guess I broke protocol. I yelled down from the gallery, said, "Can you come to our Condo Connect? Can you come?" Right? Did I not? Can you come to our Condo? She took her phone out. What day? So anyway, I got thrown out, but that's not really the important thing. She's here. State Representative Vicky Lopez represents, yes, her communities are mostly the greater Miami area. Is that a safe assessment? Fair to say? Vicky is terrific. We love her. We are in the process of adopting her. So I'll let you know how that goes. But we love her. I think she loves us. Works super hard. So you've got the Senate side, you've got the state side. Obviously, they always have to get together. I see Senator Ron Silver there, former Senator Ron Silver. Thank you. Great service to our community. So they're going to tell you what happened in Tallahassee, okay? But one thing that may be of importance to you is Alex here? Alex Pateo? Okay. So Alex is the housing director for Miami-Dade County. By the way, I want to let you know that the county mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, wanted to be here. She could not make it. I think Melanie is probably here on her behalf. There she is. Thank you, Melanie, for being here. And county commissioner, our county commissioner, Mickey Steinberg, is not feeling well today. I did speak to her on the phone. Believe me, she is not feeling well. Margie, I think Margie's here. Yes, there's Margie. So one thing before they get started that's very important is with all the special assessments, you need to know, we need to keep reminding you to tell your neighbors about the county loan program, where we're talking about a pretty decent interest rate. It's called 0 if you qualify, and there's a lot of people that qualify, okay? This is not like below the poverty line or anything like that. And we're talking up to 40 years to repay. So, and it's just for special assessments. It could be a lifesaver. It's very, very helpful. And before we get started, Alex is going to come. He's kind enough to come here and tell you about it. It's the county housing director, a very important individual. So, Alex, do you want to step up? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, and my colleagues. On behalf of Mayor Daniela Levine Cava and our Board of County Commissioners and our District Commissioner, Mick Steinberg, we're glad to be here and to talk to you about the Miami-Dade County Public Housing Condo Special Assessment. Everybody knows that housing is a critical piece to the survival not only of our county, but of our workforce and everybody that's living in our units. Preservation is creation, so this program was intended if a condo special assessment was passed where you live due to 40-year recertifications or that the building needed upgrades, this allows you to come to the county and get a loan, as the mayor mentioned, at 0%, 40 years, up to $50,000 per unit. And The restriction is, there's an AMI restriction, so you have to be, you cannot make more than 140% of AMI, but that translates to about $101,000 per individual and about $115,000 for a household of two. So the limits are well established. It's been one of our most successful programs in the last couple years. We've really helped and facilitated not only a lot of individuals and families, but condo associations, because it allows them to do the required and necessary work to keep up with the deferred maintenance that occurs and to make sure that our residents could remain in place while we take care of their situation. And I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has any. If you have any questions to it, the information is on our website at miami-dade.gov/housing, or you can call us at 786-469-2209.
Can you say it again, please, the phone number?
786-469-2209.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is the unit used as a collateral?
Excuse me?
Is the unit, is it used as a
Yes,
collateral?
absolutely, yes.
I have a question.
Sir.
How much money is available? Have you tapped the full amount on last year?
That's a good question. So we have plenty of dollars in there. We allocated an initial 40 million. It is a revolving because it's funded through our surtax program that we get an annual allocation every year from the state, and we set aside a certain percentage for this program. Yes, ma'am.
If you get the loan, say you move, do you have to satisfy it, or can you pass it on to the next person?
You would have to satisfy it upon sale, or if some life-changing event occurs in your household. Yes, sir.
What would disqualify someone from being able to get that loan? Like credit scores, or the things that you say, no, you can't get this loan?
It's not based on credit. What will disqualify you are income. If you make too much money over the limit that's allowable, and yeah, equity, correct. And it gets paid directly through the condo association itself. So it needs to make sure that we go through a underwriting mechanism, that we get the information from the condo association to verify and ensure that they are actual charges or repair work that is being conducted and is necessary at the unit. I got one over here, and then I'll go over here. Yes, ma'am.
This is only for renewal assessment, right, not for existing assessment.
It's for ongoing assessment. So if you have a condo assessment that's recent,
Let's say for this servitude, the fine. We have assessment for this servitude as well.
Are you,
And they still have applied on this now.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't have the answer, and I don't want to misspeak here.
It's only your income or your assets are included?
So your assets are included, but we allow up to 500,000 in terms of if it's in a savings account, but it is based on your income. If you are making income and you do have a large percentage of savings, we do a formula to make sure that there's a repayment. Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any other programs in Broward County area that's similar?
I'm not aware of any. I work for Miami-Dade County, but I haven't heard of any. Yes, sir.
Is this for investors or for only primary?
Primary, you have to live in the unit. Yes, ma'am.
It's only for the recertification project?
No, it's for any type of assessment that's done for the integrity of the building. Yes, ma'am. And then I'll go here.
Slightly, a part of your, what you're talking about, but I want to know, is there any limit on the amount of the assessment, the percentage of the assessment compared to the value of the condo?
That's a good question. So we are only authorized to go up to $50,000 per unit for the assessment.
But in general, I'm saying, even without what your program, is there any rules at all about charging people a third of of the value of your condos compared to the assessment?
So it's based on the,
Compared to the value of the assessment?
it's not with the value, it's based on the value of the assessment that's being done on the building. So essentially, if your condo special assessment is 25,000, you could go up to 25,000. If you just want to come in and apply for 5,000, you could do that as well.
Give me your email again or phone number.
Okay. 1 minute, okay. One more?
Yes, some buildings have special assessments in different parts, so if you apply once and it's only for 10,000, and then 6 months from now, there's another special assessment that's, do you have to reapply, or can you just have the condo send in the additional amount?
No, it's not a, yeah, correct. It's not an open line of credit. It's per event or per assessment that's required at the time.
So is it a one-time application, or can you apply for a second time if the building passes a second special assessment?
You could apply for, yeah, correct.
Okay.
If you haven't exceeded the $50,000 threshold for you, the limit, then you can apply for a separate and distinct assessment.
Thank you so much, Alex. We're
Okay.
going to move on, and I wanted to give you an email address, District 4, like 4, @miamidade.gov with additional questions. Also, I think Margie is probably going to be staying here, and Melanie, and if you have questions they work for our county commissioner and our county mayor, so you can get your questions answered also after. But we're going to move on. We're going to start with our panel. And I did just want to say that if you recall during COVID, our Senator, Jason Pizzo, I just have to say, I don't think he slept during the entirety of COVID. But if you had any issues and you called his office night or day, you were going to get results. A lot of it had to do with, as I recall, unemployment compensation when nobody's working, tireless. So I want to give a shout out to that. Yeah. Travis Moore, I'm going to call up Travis Moore with that beautiful double-breasted jacket. He's going to moderate, very, very experienced. He's a governmental affairs consultant in the condominium space. So very well versed in what's happening, what might happen, and what did happen, and he's going to take over.
Mayor, if I can, just quickly, and I know there's a question about Broward. So I represent 20 cities, the majority of which are now in Broward. So we're into our office is well in tuned. I do want to recognize a few people here. I see Sean Lahaki and Zoraida Druckmann are from Senator Lauren Book's office, who is in Broward County. We have Connie Furs here from Representative Hillary Cassell's office. We actually are in the same office building in Hollywood. I see my staff. I see Joanne here. Olivia's here. If you guys can raise your hands, if we do pointing during questions and panels, see the folks that are raising their hands. They're the ones that'll give you my number. What the hell did he just say? What was that email address? When can we call? Zoraida Druckmann's right here. So they'll be here, they'll be floating. And between Broward and Dade, we have most of the county, I think, covered. And I just want you guys to appreciate, I know it's not convenient to come here, especially at night with the traffic. But to my left is Senator Jen Bradley, who, even though I filed bills related to this for years and it took forever, following Surfside, someone who lives 361 miles from here and drove 5 hours and 16 minutes to get here this afternoon to talk to all of you, has taken on this role and this responsibility directly in the Senate, and I could not be more proud and thankful to you, Senator Bradley.
Okay, Travis, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here. We are going to have some fun.
It's a talk show.
So we will introduce folks, kind of the panelists, as Senator Pizzo kind of already just did with Senator Bradley. But as we get rolling, I know a lot of people are frustrated and upset and concerned and disappointed and disillusioned with government in general. But I want to tell you that the way all of the things that we're going to be discussing tonight came together is an absolute project in how government works. Last year, following the passage of Senate Bill 154, these folks, along with the mayor and others, held a series of town hall meetings. And they were there initially really to kind of talk about this is what's happened regarding milestones and SIRS and all of the things. But then they began to hear from the audience and from participants concerns about condos. And they started listening, which is the very first, I think, most important thing, and writing down what they heard. Are we okay over there? Everybody good? I'll just give you one quick example, and then we'll explain some of this. There was a discussion about, we go to our condo board meetings and we aren't allowed to ask any questions. We're not allowed to participate. We just sit there and we just are told what's just happened to us. And then the other side of the room said, oh my God, you guys are so lucky. I mean, you guys have meetings? Wow. I mean, we don't even, our condo hasn't had a meeting in 2 years, I think we heard in like Key Biscayne. So they literally were writing these things down, and the legislation that passed, and you are getting the early shot at this because session just ended March 9th. The bills that we're talking about today, none of them have yet gone to the governor. We suspect that they will soon, and we'll talk about that process. But when these become law, those are the things that the types of things that they heard directly from you and people like you in town halls all over, certainly the Tri-County area and around the state. Those are the things that were addressed. And sure, things get negotiated and discussed, but I just want to let you know that your voice and your being here does matter. Just so we kind of know who we're talking to, I want to get an idea of how many of you, I'm assuming the majority of you are residents, board members, volunteers involved in condominiums as opposed to HOAs. Do we have anybody here? Those in condominiums, please raise your hand. It's condominiums? Okay, so there are some people. So I'm assuming those in HOAs, raise your hand. If you're a homeowner association like a townhome. All right, so far.
It's an HOA condo.
Okay, well, there are some, like I'm the president of my association, and we're gonna not get involved in too much back and forth because that could be exciting. I'm the president of my HOA. It looks like a condo, but we're in fact set up as a 720. Right, so, but I just want to make sure that because there's some bills that passed this year, unlike the last year when we were here and talking, if you were in an HOA, then you didn't need to really even be paying much attention at all. That is not the case this year. There was significant HOA reform that did pass that we're going to talk about. Let us start with the condo, but before we start with the condo reform, I want to start with the My Safe Florida Home Program extension into condos, to now allow condos. Representative Vicky Lopez, and I'm going to hand the mic now over to her and let her not only introduce herself, but explain, and it passed as her bill, House Bill 1029. Representative Lopez.
Thank you, Travis. I would like to say that I do represent the vast majority of the city of Miami and the village of Key Biscayne, but I love Aventura. That's for the record. And I also do want to say, I have 667 condo associations in my little district. It's a lot of district. And the one thing that I want you to know is I'm invested in this, but I have a partner in the Senate who doesn't happen to have, maybe she has one or two condos, and she is equally invested with me. And I think that reflects incredibly big on her. This is something that she's had huge passion for, and quite frankly, none of this gets done unless you have a partner like her in the Senate. So I want to thank Senator Bradley for not only being here, but for being who she is, despite the fact she only has 2 condos in her entire district. So, we've been talking a lot about property insurance. I'm pretty sure if your insurance went up like ours went up, I live on Brickell. And boy, oh boy, did we see insurance premiums go up. Ours went up from $400,000 to $1,400,000. So, there was this talk about the My Safe Florida Homes program that applied for single-family homes and townhomes, right? They could get a free inspection from the state, and then whatever the inspection reflected in terms of their roof and their exterior doors and windows, they could apply for a grant up to $10,000, right? It was wildly popular. We had to refund it this year. Guess who got lost behind all of this? Us, the condo residents, right? We call condos our homes, and we were never included in that great program. So this year, the Speaker of the House and I sat down and I said, what if What if we did a pilot program? I don't know that it works in a building, quite frankly, but what if we did? So this year, the legislature appropriated $30 million to try it. And what does that mean? That means that any condo association, on the unanimous vote of every single person in the building, because remember, you can't harden half the building. You can't harden 2 units and expect to get an insurance reduction, an insurance premium reduction. So everyone in the building would have to agree, look, let's take a look at this program. So you would get, if you all agree, if everyone unanimously votes for it, then the association would contact the Department of Financial Services for an inspection. And the inspectors would come out and look at your roof and look at your exterior doors and windows. At that point, they'll issue a report, and if there is a need to harden, and by that, bring it up to code or make some adjustments, then you can apply for a grant. And the grant is up to $185,000 maximum per building. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it goes a long way. And for the buildings that have been hardened, they have seen a huge reduction in their insurance premium. So we're hopeful that this program, and I'm really hopeful that it will be some fabulously well, used here in South Florida, because we have the most condos in the entire state are here in South Florida, both in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. They're the ones that are the highest risk when a storm comes for damage. So I'm hoping that all of you, before the 30 million gets used, because once the 30 million gets used, then I have to go back next year and say, oh, it was wildly popular too, and reflect that in fact your insurance premiums did go down. So if you are a member of an association in this here tonight, please go back to your board, tell them about this. The governor, I know, is one of his major priorities. I fully expect him to sign it. It will be effective July 1st. We'll give the Department of Financial Services some time to, implement the program, but they already know, they're already in the process, if you will. So make sure that everybody takes advantage of it. If you have any sense that you might need to harden your building, this is just the program to do so.
Representative, I can imagine that there might be a question such as, would the association have to pay for the inspection?
No, the inspection is free.
Whoa, murmur, excitement in the air.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am, and wait, let me just so we know the flow, what we'll do is, we'll take some questions after each one of these, and then at the end, if we have time, we'll follow through with some, general questions. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, it's the My Safe Florida Home Program for condominiums. So the My Safe Florida Home Program has been on the books for single-family homes for some time. It had the program was still in statute, but the funding for it had kind of lapsed some years ago. The legislature, during the special session on insurance, really boosted that funding for single-family homes. And people like Representative Lopez, Representative Hunchofsky from just up north in the Broward area, Senator Pizzo, Senator Bradley, and others were saying, well, wait a minute, a condo unit is also a home. What about the hardening there? So during the special session, it was not expanded for condos, but the seed was planted with the speaker and others, and they said, you know what? Let's have a larger discussion about this during the regular session. True to her word and his word, the Representative Lopez and the speaker got together, and so now, again, it's just a pilot program, but I would encourage you to go for it and do it. It doesn't cost you anything. You could get that grant money, and then we can show, hey, going forward, look, this is wildly popular and we need more money for it. Yes, sir, because you have the mic, and then if you could pass it down to this gentleman here.
Yes. When can we start having the inspector come out that you just described, and when can we apply the application?
So,
you want to take that?
Yes, so the bill will not go into effect until July 1st, okay? So we can't do anything before that. Afterwards, we have to wait for the Department of Financial Services to actually implement the program. They're going to have a form ready for the inspectors. They're already looking at inspectors, so I would say come August would be a good time to you can touch base with my office or certainly Senator Pizzo's office. I know he's probably going to get a lot of questions on this as to when they're ready and how to apply. So right now, I'm just giving you that overview, but soon after July 1st, I believe that you'll be able to apply.
Hold on, sir, I'm not forgetting you.
Folks, I just want to save some wrists and some arms. This is being recorded. It will be on the City of Aventura's website. Olivia is going around with the microphone, so those watching live stream can actually hear your questions. So the phones that are being held up in the back, you can get this, you can rest your arm, and you can watch it on your phone later. Also, and a lot of you know we know each other. A lot of the people in the room, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. I want you to be able to use this. Senator Bradley and I have done a number of town halls. If you're hearing something different than what's coming out of our mouth tonight, I want you to show the recording. I want you to tell people who have a different interpretation, no. I actually met with and was at the meeting with the people who wrote the law. Okay? So that's a great utility of why we like to record these things and disseminate them. There's still a lot of misinterpretation. Senator Bradley and I get a lot of texts from people saying, the board president said this. So one of my favorite scenes from Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield is when the teacher said he didn't know the first thing about Vonnegut, so he calls Kurt Vonnegut on the phone. You could do that. So if there's an interpretation of a statute or some rule, and this happens to me, my property manager literally said, she goes, but in Tallahassee, I said, do you know what I do for a living? And she goes, you do something with the government. Okay, so my point is ask away, ask after. I think there's a lot of interest peaked from Alex's presentation, obviously, about the special assessment funding that's available. Selfishly, for my district, my 20 cities, we want to apply as fast as possible. We'll find out if there's a Broward contingent. But ask the questions, and this is available afterwards. So everybody just relax, let it incubate, and let's go.
I'm going to come right back to the, yes, sir, gentlemen, yes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Diego. I've been a resident of Florida, Aventura for 13 years. I'm a homeowner, but I do also work with the Windows and Doors company. My question to you, because I get these questions a lot. I mean, we work with a lot of our customers with my Florida Safe program for homes. So on the condo side of it, I mean, is it just with the associations or could it be individually?
So it has to be with the association, because let's assume there's a building that has 100 units, and 3 people decide to apply for it and they harden their own unit. That won't help us. That's not the intent. We have to harden the entire building, because remember, your insurance policy is a master plan that covers the entire building. So, you can insure your own contents inside your building, right? But that's not part of this program.
And part of this was all part of a negotiation. There was a version of the bill that had, where this only, because again, it's a pilot program, so we were like, we just got to kind of wade into this, that said, it's only for associations less than 3 stories. And we said, well, and then the other version had it where it would have also been for unit owners individually and the association. And we said, look, let's make it, any association can apply, can get the inspection, and we'll for this pilot program, we'll say the unit owner for their effort, no, let's just make this about the association. One thing I just wanted to mention is that it's $1,000, the caps that she mentioned were the $175,000 cap. The way that breaks down is $1,000, per unit for the roof. So let's say if you have 40 units, the most you could get for the roof would be $40,000, and then for everything else is $1,500, like your windows, doors, those kinds of things. And then, but again, all of that when added together cannot exceed the maximum cap.
Travis, I think maybe also what Diego might have been suggesting was if you have an association that has multiple buildings, is it just the unit owners for, let's say, roof improvement or roof replacement in building B, and there's 7 buildings on the property? Is the bill rather silent on as to whether or not it's unanimity amongst the entire association of all the unit owners or just of that building?
Just in that building is but I will get back to you on that. But yeah. We had a question here, and then we will move off of this and on to something else again that'll be quick, vacation rentals.
Thank you. Sounds like a great program. My question to Vicki, we're neighbors. I'm in downtown Miami. We have over 500 unit owners in my building. My concern is the unanimous. I mean, just getting 20% of owners to vote in an election is a full-time job for me. I take a whole month off of work just to do that. Getting 500+ owners to agree, that could take 6 months or more. That's the part that concerns me. Should we be doing that now? So come July and can we do that?
Probably a good idea. You could certainly say, look, this program is coming. Would everyone like to participate? If and when it is, listen, the governor's signing it. I know this for a fact. So it's happening. So you can say, effective July 1st, we're going to have this program in place. So you are more than welcome to start. I would start the process now, yes, because we know. Look, at some point I wanted to make it just majority, but no, that was negotiated out.
Sometimes the only way for something to pass or to get incrementally passed is to acquiesce to some deal. Senator Bradley and I were not crazy about the original House version of the condo bill, certain parts, before Representative Lopez had it. It's something you seek to revisit the following year, or maybe a year or so after. Unanimous voting on this is tantamount to being impossible, in my view, right? So I think it should be majority, supermajority, whatever you want to be, or a supermajority of those voting, as opposed to every unit. But so it just needed to get passed.
Do we have to present something technical to say we have a majority, we have unanimous?
Yeah, you will have to, the minutes will have to show that you did, yeah.
Just to follow up on my question just now, the answer. Let's say you live in the condominium building that has 500 units. You need a unanimous vote. But let's say only 300 people come out to vote, and they all vote yes. Now you have unanimous vote of everybody who voted.
So what I just said was I'm of the belief that it should be for those attending or those voting, right? So that we probably get there next session. But just to get it passed, to get the conversation started, to show the world was not going to end by implementing the program, and there may be very little subscription because maybe a 16-unit boutique building will do it because it's easy to get a hold of everybody. But I have Sunny Isles Beach where I live. What does Winston Towers have? 1,200 units? Good luck. Right.
And here's what I would say, if you try it.
You can't get 600 people to agree that sunshine is nice.
Well,
Yeah.
true, but I will say this, if you try it and you find that you cannot get unanimous, I think, I would like to start hearing from you. I'm the sponsor of this bill, I want to hear what happens, because that's how we're going to tell what's going to happen next. Because if I can say, look, this unanimous did not work, it wasn't because there wasn't interest, there was no unanimous vote in order to comply with the law.
How you doing,
No,
Ms.
exactly.
Lopez? How you doing? My name is Jonathan Gonzalez.
Hi, Jonathan.
How you doing, Ms. Bradley? I testified on SB 1178. I went to the first committee, I went to the third committee. I basically personified exactly what I was doing.
Hey, Jonathan,
as a
when we get to that, I'll call on you. We're going to go through a couple of these.
This is not the question panel, right?
Not for that bill yet.
Okay, which bill are we on? I'm
We're
sorry,
on 1029, the My Safe Florida Home Program, and we're now going to talk about vacation rentals, but Jonathan, I'll remember.
Number one fan.
I know.
I love you, Mr. Bradley.
I know. Okay. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you, Jonathan. Yes.
In order to get the ball rolling.
Yes.
With any condominium, the one I'm in specifically.
Right.
I think we really have to present specific information. If you can get something together that I can take to our board, specifying what's involved here, we can get the people interested. For one person to get to the whole building when we have nothing on paper means nothing. And in order to get this going in July, we've got to start now. But without specificity, we can't do anything.
I have prepared.
It's up to you.
Yeah, I've prepared a sheet that I've given to a lot of people that summarizes the law, and it's great because it tells you exactly what you have to do.
And in addition to that, one other thing I'd like to suggest to you is a phone number for the person who is presenting it to the board, because there will be many questions. Some will be innocuous and stupid, but some will be good. So there has to be a phone number where we can reach you. I mean, it may sound bizarre to you, but you know that every building has some very weird people.
Well,
Sorry.
and we're going to be talking when we get to condo reform. You're going to be, hopefully you will still be here right in the front row paying attention because we have some good stuff for you. I do want to give, yes ma'am, I forgot about you. Go ahead, launch away. And this will be it
Thank you
on
so
this
much.
topic. We'll
I
come back.
appreciate it.
No, we'll come back.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm a reporter. I'm wondering, where did the $33 million come from? Like, how did you guys determine that that was a safe number? And how will the condos be prioritized if it's not enough?
Okay, so the $30 million was a number that came up with budget negotiations. And if you calculate the 175,000 maximum, it's probably going to be about 400 condominium associations that are going to be able to apply. There will be it'll be first come, first serve, as the My Safe Florida Homes is. Once it's, once the funds are expended, that's the end of that. Just like the My Safe Florida Homes.
And they based it also on, because the My Safe Florida has 280 million for the homes, and they looked at, we have a lot more homes than condos, and they looked at that percentage and came up with that. And also, I will say, again, there's a lot of people in Tallahassee that don't think we will ever be able to get this done. So the program in statute sunsets in 4 years. The money is only for this year. We can go back and get more, but the thought is, like the sense, I mean, I can't get a majority of the people to agree that today's Wednesday.
But Representative Lopez brings up a good point. If in your 600 units, your 250 units, your 150 units, you come back and say, we got 75%, that's empirical data for Representative Lopez to say, hey, no one in this legislative body got elected with 75% of the vote, and you're here. So, and then it shows, the pattern shows that somewhere the sweet spot is around 66, 67% of the people participating and voting for it. That should be the threshold. And then that's when we revise the law.
Okay, now we're gonna move off of this, but I'll come back to you later for general questions. So try to remember the question on this. I just want to give out also, because you had mentioned information. So if you go, and all of you need to write this down, www.flsenate.gov. And then you go on the top, there's some folders and it'll say committees. Underneath that tab will be something that says committee publications. Underneath the committee publications, you will see a link that says 2024 legislative summaries. Every bill that passed the legislature has a really, really, really good, easy to understand bullet point summary. And I would print those out and take them to your board and show them to people, and because that information is invaluable. Okay? Jonathan, I'm not forgetting you. I'm coming back. All right. We're going to talk now real quick about vacation rentals. Now, and this is not meant as a political statement in any way, shape, or form. Of the bills that we are talking about, in my discussions with the governor's office and others, I mean, just as a handicapper, if I was to go down to the racetrack, if I was just to handicap which one of these could be an opportunity for a veto, this would be the one. This bill has been around for 8 years. This bill has obviously has never passed. This is the first year that it has passed. Senator Pizzo, I certainly can talk about this. Would you like to opine at all about the vacation rental bill as it passed this year? And if not, we certainly can go somewhere else.
I take great pride in actively participating in killing every short-term rental bill the 6 years I've been in office because it preempts local home rule. Last year, we had a bill, SB 714. It started with, I'll give you by way of example, 3 violations or more can result in a suspension or revocation of a unit. I asked the bill sponsor, Senator DeSegli, on the floor, is those 3 violations could be occurring in the same calendar day. He said yes. The House was listening to my questions. The bill went back to the House. It came back from the House with 5 or more violations over 30 or more days, which is tantamount to really having no relief whatsoever. This year's, we rejected that bill. We did not accept the House version. This year, the bill started in the posture of being the House's version from last year. I don't sit on a particular committee. I asked the chair if I could sit on it. He said, yes, you can. And I just exploded on negotiating against ourselves and this being bad for local home rule and for the residents. I live in a condo now. Our family does, but I used to live in North Miami Beach and Eastern Shores. I've had a gun pulled on me. I've had people sitting in the backyard asking me, what's my problem? Why can't they stay there? But I think that those who govern closest should be governing the best. And so it just went at a frenetic pace toward the end. And in order for it to pass in the House Speaker in Representative Lopez's chamber decided to let it pass as long as there was a carve out for his home county. And Broward. Now, that's effectively not a carve out because 98% of Broward is incorporated and the county itself has no ordinance. But then there's an exception, there's a carve out for Broward, which is again tantamount to nothing, and Flagler County. So I made it very clear, I think I laid a very good self-serving record that would be the most cliche political stunt you would ever see. Second only to the previous House Speaker. You guys heard about the bill where you can like now open like, you know, a bakery in your house and a nail salon and all the home business kind of it. That was because his wife's friend down the street was making cake pops for a Starbucks franchise and flour was being delivered by trucks at 4 o'clock in the morning in a residential neighborhood. So they preempted your local control over that stuff. This is the politics that I hate, right? So I think the governor is going to veto SB 280. It's just a flagrant kind of exception. And I know that a lot of buildings in Sunny Isles especially have been turned into hotels because of short-term rentals with no accountability. So we do have to get together in a bipartisan fashion this summer and draft and rewrite something, but I look for that bill to be vetoed.
And if I could just add, the interesting part is, remember what I told you, that I represent the city of Miami and the village of Key Biscayne. The bill actually does not pertain to any municipality who had passed its own ordinance prior to June 1st of 2011. And both my municipalities passed their own vacation rental ordinances. So this bill didn't even affect them. So imagine, it's one of those things where you think, as Senator Pizzo said, who knows what's going on here, right? I mean, my cities aren't even affected by it. Whether it passed or it didn't pass, it wouldn't matter. And I don't know how many other cities had passed ordinances prior to that date. And I don't even know how they came up with that date of June 1st, 2011. But whatever, it was almost irrelevant to someone like me, but very relevant to someone who lives in a city that has not yet passed an ordinance to curtail these crazy vacation rentals, especially in buildings.
Yeah.
Airbnb, VRBO, anything that's 6 months or less. No, 6 months or less. Yeah, it's usually typically 6 months or less. But here's effectively what it did. We didn't speak about the bill of what it did. So if by some chance it does get signed into law, it effectively takes further control and authority away from local governments and neighborhoods and areas to govern themselves. To say, we'd like to have inspections of homes. We would like to know if sexual predators or offenders are staying in a neighborhood with small kids because they don't have reporting requirements. We would like the same protections hotels are allowed to have to kick people out if they're, but the problem is you can have noise violations, drugs, cars, porn being shot in the backyard, all of these things going on. And the idea basically was you were supposed to call a phone number in Tallahassee to file a complaint. Is anybody here from DBPR? Does anyone think DBPR does a great job over condos? So imagine my disappointment that the solution and remedy to short-term rentals regulation was going to be to add a few more employees at DBPR and let them have a phone line, a hotline for you to complain.
Before we go into any kind of quick questions on that, I'll also say, just from an association standpoint, somebody that works, representing your interest in Tallahassee, I had made sure that every version of this bill for all these years had a section that, in this bill, it was section 21, but it's the same section. I just cut and paste and give it to the sponsor and say, I don't care what you do, as long as this section's in there. And that said, essentially, that when they're preempting these rules, regulations, et cetera, from the local government to the state, that it does not in any way supersede an association's documents and their rental, whatever their rental rights and rental restrictions are for 718, 19, and 20 condos, co-ops, and HOAs. And I would just tell you, and talking to the governor's office, I represent an association, a large association in Flagler County, who had the distinction of their member happened to get himself elected Speaker of the House. So I'm like, your member is the Speaker. So that's who you should talk to. Might have had something to do with the fact that they did not agree with my assessment. They said, well, look, Flagler County has a really good ordinance, which many local governments do. I said, you do not need to worry about this. It doesn't matter. And they said, no, the county's told us that we need to worry about it because of occupancy and this, that, and the other thing. So I said, all right, well, you now pay me to worry about it, so I'll worry about it with you. But when I talked to the governor's office about this bill, I said to the governor, I said, look, associations, whether it be in Flagler County or anywhere else, are going to be fine if this bill does not become law. They're going to operate just like they're operating right now with the Flagler County ordinance. So I said, Governor, obviously you can do what you want, but this is a real jump ball as far as I'm concerned with my interests, because they wanted, do you oppose? What's your statement? And I said, I don't really care. If you sign it, actually, they're going to be protected. If you don't sign it, they're not. But I said, and I said to them on the phone, I said, however, I don't think this is good policy. I don't think this is the way policy should be made. Now, that's just my opinion. You do what you want. But I think given some of the conversations, there is some concern about that one. But it did pass this year after it had never passed before, so I just wanted to bring that up. Are there any questions about that before we get to the real meat?
What did the governor say when you spoke to him?
Well, I just spoke to his staff. I don't know how to speak to the governor. So they took note of my comments.
I was told by someone in the governor's office that an adequate record was laid for the argument that the bill should be vetoed.
That's, yes. Okay. So moving quite along, because again, this is being recorded as we were so thankfully reminded. All right. So this year we passed I just kind of like this line. I'm going to use it. I don't know. This is not a sequel to all the other things you had heard. We passed 4D, we did 100, 154. This, in fact, is a prequel, because this could have been done, should have been done years ago. And it is now happened. I think we can all take great pride in this, because so many people literally made this happen in this room. So we're going to talk about the condo one first, and then we will talk about the HOA one, because there was significant HOA reform following again on what had happened down south with the hammocks and other associations not behaving well at all. And now a lot of the things we're going to talk about in condos also are going to be dealt with HOAs as well. So I can step us through some of this, but I think Senator Bradley, you've been so patient and have said nothing. And as Senator Pizzo said, Senator Bradley has been working on these issues tirelessly and literally doesn't have any condos to speak of in her district. So, Senator Bradley.
All right. Thank you, Travis, and great to be here. And so I was the chair of community affairs in the Florida Senate when Surfside collapsed. And that was my entree into this world and the dangers and the concerns. And so during that committee year, during that session, we passed 4D, which was the initial bill that created the milestone inspections and the SIRS. And following that legislative session, we did our first town hall right here in this room. Last year, we passed Senate Bill 154 and really fleshed out some more of the questions and really clarified a lot of the concerns that were on 154. And while I don't have condos in my district, I think that's probably helpful, because I never looked at any of what was going on as, well, that's just the way it is. I started looking at it and hearing from people, and to me, it all just sounded like the Wild West, like we need to rein this in. What is happening? There are parts of the state where this goes on, and it just was unacceptable. And so this bill that we did this year, to Travis's point, really is the one that should have been the very first bill that was done years ago. And people have tried doing those. Senator Pizzo has filed bills for years. Others in the Senate, Representative Lopez, there are other members who have tried to get these reforms passed. And I don't think before Surfside there was really the appetite or the focus on these issues. And so after 4D and after the bill last year, we were left with a situation where condo owners were trying to navigate these milestone inspections, trying to navigate their SIRs and their reserves and have meetings. And what was abundantly clear was they had no tools to be able to do that in a structure that would allow them to have sort of orderly administration, where if things went off the rails, they didn't have to hire private attorneys and self-finance their remedies, and there was no ability for law enforcement to come in and address bad actors and corruption and bullying. So this is the bill that should have been passed first, but it's passed that just passed, to really provide our associations with a framework to navigate what we've already passed. And there are a lot of sections of the bill, and as Rep. Lopez indicated, a lot of these provisions came from town halls and from sitting down and from emails and from listening to folks. And Travis, you want me to step through them, or do you want to why don't you step through the
Okay.
sort of the major sections of them, and we can kind of go into details if you'd like.
Yes. So, yes. All right, so what we'll do is let's first start just in kind of an order of the bill, if and when you go to flsenate.gov and you're looking at these things. We'll start with what changes we made in Chapter 4, the legislature made in Chapter 468, which is the Community Association Manager statute. The community association managers and the firms and the managers themselves, the CAMs, have to be licensed, obviously, under 468. So we made a couple of changes. One of them is that the CAM and the CAM firms have to return all community association records in their possession within 20 business days of termination of a service agreement or a written request, whichever occurs first, with license suspension and a civil penalty put onto it if they do not do that. And the penalty is $1,000 a day. So they could lose their license, and then also, I don't know how long they would want to sit around and not hand over the records. And the reason for that is we had heard stories of, we're trying to go with a new management company. We don't, we had a problem with our old, and they're just slow walking this. They're not giving us what's ours. And that is unacceptable. It belongs to the association. 20 business days should be enough time for them to wrap it up and get it over to where it needs to go. The bill, we also put in a conflict of interest disclosure requirements and a process for associations to follow when approving contracts with their CAMs and their CAM firms. And we basically took this directly, tweaked it to make it work, but out of the section that had passed, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago with Senator Rene Garcia, we took the section that applied to board members, when there's board member conflicts of interest and how that works and how they have to disclose it and they have to leave the room and they can, the relatives that they can't use and all of those things. And we said, well, you know what, if the legislature heard, again, if that's good enough for the board, it should certainly be good enough for the CAM and the CAM firm. So it provides that if the association receives and considers a bid to provide a good or service that exceeds $2,500, other than community association management services, their regular management service, from a CAM or CAM firm, including directors, officers, persons with a financial interest in the CAM firm, or a relative of such person, the association has to solicit multiple bids. They have to get 3 bids. They can't just say, oh, well, that was the bid that we got, so that's who we went with. And then again, all of this also, you will see, it starts to build, because it's also going to be all part of records, and then it's also going to all be part of criminal penalties and an enhanced DBPR jurisdiction. 3.
Is that inspection?
Multiple.
It says multiple.
I think, let me make that's a good question. There were a lot of changes, so let me make a note of that.
Solicit multiple.
What's the statute number?
HB 1021.
1021 requires that the proposed activity, and I made a note of that, thank you, requires that the proposed activity that may be a conflict of interest must be listed on and all contracts and transactional documents related to the proposed activities must be attached to the board's meeting agenda and entered into the minutes. Yeah, right. Requires that the board must approve the contract with a potential conflict of interest and all management contracts by an affirmative vote of 2/3 of all the directors present. Again, it may be that the board's son-in-law has the painting company, that when you look at that may be the best thing. We don't want to say this is the best deal. We happen to have inside access to it, but we can't do it. But it's now, there's a whole bunch of things that have to happen in a super majority vote in order to pierce that opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
How do you define a conflict of interest for a CAM firm? Because we know there are CAM firms that have a business model that seems to be overall a big conflict of interest. Like they don't get their fees from property management fees.
If a management company has ancillary streams of revenue or products or goods or services that they offer the association, what is the disclosure requirement? Or what are we contemplating that they're disclosing? So we had Diego over there that does contracting and also lives in a condo. Obviously, if it's above board and his entire association is aware of it and 2/3 or more vote that it's okay, I mean, that's kind of the transparency issue is what we're talking about. So to your point,
right.
That's talking about a board member. What about the management company itself that their bread and butter might seem like it's the management fee, but it's actually the other services that they're offering and selling?
If they're receiving anything of value, and I can read you the whole definition, but that is included in this definition. If they were receiving any remediation, any type of, if they're getting any benefit and profit from that, that the person that has the conflict, cannot be.
I understand that they have to disclose that during the bidding process, but how about for the existing contracts? Let's just say they didn't disclose the part.
Right, she's saying that the existing.
Are they obligated?
Let me give by way of example. ABC, not an actual management company that I know of, just using as an example.
Right.
Jason Management Company manages a building, but also has a painting firm that they own, contracting firm, also has a pool service company that they own, also does carpet cleaning under a different entity, LLC, name, whatever. What is a requirement or obligation and duty of the parent management firm that has obviously a direct nexus and business relationship and derives revenue from other subsidiaries or entities? What is their requirement to disclose that to the residents of the community, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, and I would say this is, a conflict of interest is deemed to be there if any of these occur. And I'm just reading directly from the law. A community association manager or a community association management firm, including directors, officers, and persons with a financial interest in a community association firm or a relative of such person, enters into a contract for goods and services with the association. B, a community association manager or a community association management firm, again, including directors, officers, persons with a financial interest in a community association firm or a relative of such person, holds an interest in or receives compensation or anything of value from a corporation, limited liability corporation, partnership, limited liability partnership, and it lists on.
Travis, she has.
Those contracts are renewed annually. And come next year, upon renewal of any of those services that are being provided to 400 Sunny Isles. Hold on.
They don't
Bill hasn't
renew?
gotten into law yet, ma'am. Mademoiselle, I understand.
They will
This
start
bill-
July 1.
Folks, we're gonna have a quick civics lessons for a second, okay? There are 40 state senators. There are 120 representatives. We are in session for 60 straight days every year. 2 weeks out of each month, in the preceding 3 or 4 months, we have committee weeks. Supposed to be a part-time job. Yeah, right. Now, we just got back from session. We passed bills. I'm just a bill in Capitol Hill. The bill passes in the Senate. It passes in the House. They have to match. They have to be identical. They're presented to the governor to sign. When he signs it, it becomes law, either July 1st or October 1st of that calendar year. The governor has not received this bill from the legislature yet. He'll have 2 weeks to act upon it once he gets it. If he gets it tomorrow, by April 4th. He has basically 10 business days, 14 actual days. All of the stuff that we're telling you tonight, I'm 99.9% sure is going to be signed into law and will become effective July 1st. hold on, when you can clap for me, whatever, but I'm gonna tell you this. When you come up for the next natural renewal on whether it's a fiscal year or calendar, when you come up for renewal, there has to be, they gotta drop trow and give full disclosure of each and every single thing. And since you live about 486 feet away from me, okay, I'm gonna make sure that you get that disclosure form.
Yeah, it must be listed. It must be listed. It must be listed on all contracts and transactional documents related to the proposed activities, and it must be attached to the board's meeting agenda and entered into the minutes. So, but we'll talk about this off, yes.
Who are the lobbyists who are opposing these common sense rules that you work so hard to implement and they look so.
Can I have 30 seconds of this?
Sure.
A decent chunk of this bill is something I filed 5 years ago and 6 years ago. And once I filed the bill, the largest law firm that handles associations, ma'am, thank you, just, thanks. If you want to have a side chat, you can go outside. Appreciate it, thank you. The largest law firm that handles these associations sent out an email to 13,000 members saying that I was looking to put association members in jail. Pizzo wants to lock them up. That was the bill. One of the very no-brainer sections that I had was reducing the unit count from 150 down to 25 units to make things more transparent, instead of the notice requirement of the 10 days and all that stuff. Standing on the back of the wall here is Martin Langesfeld, whose 26-year-old beautiful sister Nicole was killed in Surfside. I got so much pushback, emails, seminars. There's actually one going on tomorrow that's gonna just blast my name out about how I'm looking to put people in jail by this bill passing for taking kickbacks and bribes and all that stuff, right? Well, I wanted to go from 150 units to 25. Does anybody know how many units were in Surfside? 136.
For the website.
For the website. So you don't have to ask where are the documents, where are the records, where are this and where are that. And I'm so tired of, I live in a condo, the association has changed management companies in both buildings where I own units in Sunny Isles. And they always say, I don't know, we couldn't get the records from the management company. I don't know the last people that had it. But we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about the physical characteristics of the building, the quality of life, and everybody does this. And that's just too Miami for me. I'm just not built that way. So it's tough love. It's a lot of go slow, hurry up. But I think if you're getting your unit renovated, you've got horror stories about your master association president giving millions of dollars to contractors, and all of a sudden new cars, new boats, and new units are ending up in a building. And I think that should be illegal and you should go to jail. And a lot of the association attorneys who make their money and their livelihood off billing associations, the first town hall we had here 5 years ago, Eli and Ellie Lepsetter stood up there from Boca Raton. They live in Boca View condos, 72 units. And guess what happened? They sat here, Halsey Bashirs was here, he was a DVPR secretary, and they stood and just told their story about how horrifying it was that they had a $484 dispute and they were getting sued by their association and the bills were mounting up with a law firm, the largest law firm handling these things. Their legal bill got up to $250,000 on a and their association fee, I think, was $516 a month. Do you know what the law firm did after our town hall? They went to court and on the record said, Senator Pizzo held a town hall and we think that's an out-of-court statement and we should be declared the winner here. These firms have bankrupted people over these disputes. And you guys all pay for it, and I'm tired of it. I'm also tired of, and I've said this before, and Senator Bradley knows this, associations that have deferred maintenance to remain popular and get reelected. When you come up to me to aisle 5 in Publix in Sunny Isles, or I see you on the street somewhere at a car dealership or somewhere else, you say, oh, Senator, I saw you on TV. My association fee's gone up 50%. Well, when last year it was static at a certain number, the same the year before that, the same before that, while the price of bread, milk, juice, gas, college, everything has gone up, you guys got screwed. Asleep at the switch, somebody was. Not a good steward of your dollars and deferring maintenance and living really, really lean. And the analogy we always give is, if you and I buy the same car and I treat it well and I take it to get serviced and change the tires and lube everything up and everything's good, and you treat your car horribly for 10 years, our units should not be worth the same. And you're gonna have a much more expensive visit to the doctor than I am. Having said that, Jen Bradley's here. Go ahead.
No, and everything, yeah. everything Senator Pizzo just said is absolutely correct. But the next point is, even if we did nothing, even if the legislature didn't pass a bill, costs and reality was going to come to condos because the private insurance market watched what happened. The banks, the lenders, change was coming after Surfside, whether the legislature did anything or not. So we gave it a framework. We have inspections that now underwriting is going to look at, banks, loans, insurance. We have milestone inspections. We now have set associations on a path to have healthy reserves so that the people that live there for a few years don't get to kick their expenses to whoever's moving in. That upkeep is going to lead to better maintained buildings, lower insurance premiums, a bit more comfort in the property insurance market, that lending and insuring condos is a good risk because they know that the buildings are maintained, they know that they have reserves. So whether, you can blame me if you want for the increased cost. Whether we passed a bill or not, costs were going up because the private market saw what we all saw, and that there was an absolute misalignment between the actual cost to live in a condo and the price that the cost that people were actually paying, and kicking the can down the road and putting it on the next owner, and nobody paying their fair share of the cost to sustain the integrity of the building and the cost to maintain and put away. So a reckoning was coming. I think we have streamlined that reality shift that we're seeing now.
Okay, so we're gonna skip to that right now, and then we'll come back. This is the DBPR jurisdiction. We haven't. Yes. Go ahead.
I want to move focus because I went and I got those financial records. I got those financial records that I asked for, and I requested the accommodation for the records. When I got these records, I'm looking at this, and it says that we have pest control. We're paying about $15,000 in pest control, and these are the official records. I could call the association right now, and they will tell you, sorry, we don't have pest control. You have to do it on your own. So let's just say we get to that part, right? Let's get to the part where we actually got the records. Because it's hard enough to get the records as it is. So when I finally get the records, they sit there and lie and put this stuff about pest control. So what if we know that they're lying, and how do we prove that? Where do we go from there? And I apologize if I'm...
No, Jonathan, we appreciate it.
But I have a burning desire
Right,
to get
so
this across.
do you want to take this?
Jonathan, where do you live?
I live in Brentwood, East Cold Springs, specifically 4126 North.
That's fine. The people.
So
Olivia.
We greatly expanded the.
Joanne, go give them our information, and I will look at your financials tomorrow. And you got it.
All right. So we DBPR, as you rightly point out, Jonathan, and many of you would say, if you contacted them, they would say, not within our jurisdiction. That was the magic words. It had to be 3 very specific things. 4 now. I know. I see you, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead. Why don't we ask that question?
I just wanted to double check for HB 1021 that we're discussing right now. Are there any parameters in which a condo would be affected? Like, for example, does my condo have to have at least 100 units to fall under this law?
No.
So all condos, no matter
Yes.
what size?
Correct. Yeah, good question.
Okay, we've got one more here.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. I appreciated everything you have done. Everything looked good. But the point I have is, for example, in my condominium, when I request the records, they don't provide us.
Okay, well, now they're going to have to provide them. If you will give me a second, I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay, Travis, I think we've gotten into, so this is what I want to take a second to do. I want to do a 30,000-foot overview of each section that's in this bill so that we don't get mired down. So let's start. Number 1 is the CAMs, is our community association managers, and Travis has already talked a little bit about that. But we have set forth provisions to make sure that conflicts of interest, if they exist, are disclosed, that it requires a supermajority to enter into that contract. If they do to exist. Those contracts have to be a part of the agendas. It has to be full transparency. You'll see a theme of transparency through each of these sections. So the first is community association managers. And so it's in that section 470, I think it's 478, 476. So that's going to be the same for HOAs and for condos, because it addresses community association managers. The second has to do with official records. And now condo associations with 25 units or more have to have their official records on a website for people to access. That's the number one issue, is we can't access our records. We don't have the ability to have access to what we need. So we've got the websites now for condos are 25 units or more. You need to be have all those records updated on the website. And that's effective January 1, 26. The next section is criminal violations. We saw reporting from DBPR when we asked them, what complaints are you answering? Who is getting resolution from you? And one of the line items on their spreadsheet of a reason why there wasn't a resolution given to someone is because there was a crime committed. That's outrageous. If a crime is being committed, DBPR needs to be referring that matter to law enforcement so that law enforcement has a clear point of access to the problem. And so the bill requires DBPR to refer to law enforcement if any of the provisions of 718 have been violated. And then it sets forth criminal penalties related to association activities that we would all agree should be criminal penalties. And that is destruction of records, willfully and repeatedly failing to give an owner records that they should have, intentionally defacing or destroying records, and then with regard accepting kickbacks, soliciting bribes, and then we also address some of the fraudulent voting activity we really just picked up out of our election law and put it right in condos. So you can't, if there's fraudulent voting activity occurring, law enforcement can come in and hold those people accountable. And there was a question earlier about who pushes back against this. There was a lot of pushback from folks saying no one will ever serve on a board if there are criminal penalties for intentionally destroying records and committing election fraud. So I suggest to you, if you plan on doing those things, don't run for your board.
Jennifer, can I just step in for a second on the elections? So for those of us in South Florida, we know so many people do not live in the unit that they own, right? They may not even live in Miami. They may live outside of Miami. Many of my constituents in my district live in other countries. And you know how it works. If you want to keep control of your board, how do you do it? You manipulate the elections. And how can you best manipulate elections? Well, the law before this bill was passed was that you had to send the ballots, ready? Either by US mail or, that's the operative word in the sentence, electronically. What do you think the boards were doing? Sending by US mail to Venezuela, to Argentina, to Spain, the ballot by US mail. When do you think it got there?
After the election?
Way after the election. And so I actually put this in at the very last minute because I was dealing with an election fraud in Brickell Place. It's been going on for 2 months, where the owners were told that the election would be on January 28th, and they arrived from all over the world. And on January 26th, they were told, nope, actually, we're not having the election on the 28th. And they said, okay, well, while we're here, then let us have our ballots. They said, no, we have to reprint them. Now, mind you, what were they doing with the other ones that were ready to go on the 28th? So then the owners said, all right, well, then we have to return home to our jobs and our families. Can you give it to us electronically? And they were told no. And today, if you ask for anything electronically, you will get it, including the ballot. And I'm telling you, this is a common theme around bad condo boards. But make no mistake that we're not saying that every condo board is a bad board. There are many people who serve on condo boards who serve, it's thankless. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of good people trying to do a lot of good things, but let me just tell you, we learned that there are a lot of bad people trying to do a lot of bad things. And so, not the least of which is tell you that they're expending money on pest control when there's no pest control.
I want to say something about what you just said.
Jonathan, we're just, I will stay here all night to answer any question. I just want to get through this stuff. Gotcha. You got it. No problem.
So we just,
Election procedures, if the board would not allow electronic voting, when you have 20% or 20 to 30% of the people in the building. If an election is scheduled and they have refused to do electronic voting, can we, as the owners, insist that this election date?
We hear what's going on.
yeah, the question that I know that y'all couldn't hear was with regard to specific issues about electronic voting, and how do you address it if you have an upcoming election and you don't believe that the electronic voting is going to be accessible to the folks who want to vote electronically. Right.
I adore you, but there's people watching online and nobody in here can hear what you're saying. So we'll give you a microphone if you want. That's all right.
Let's get through the overall, continue on some of the bullet points, get through, and I want to come back to your question. We just talked about the criminal penalties, the voter fraud. The next major component of the bill has to do with director education. Right now, directors and board members can sign a form saying they've read the bylaws and the documents and they're good to go. Clearly, that's not sufficient. So now you will have to, the directors and officers are going to have to do state training. And that training is you're going to learn about milestone inspection, surge, record keeping, financial literacy and transparency, fines, meeting requirements. We need to make sure that board members are equipped to exercise their fiduciary duty that they owe to all of the homeowners. So you'll have an education requirement, and then you also will have, when you're elected, and then you'll also have an annual update based on legislative updates, basically a legislative update every year for an hour. You know, the last couple of years would need more than an hour, but it would be, so now there is board member education. I know there would be specific questions on exactly when you have to do it, but we will get to those, and there'll be a lot of education that has to take place on how condominiums and associations are going to get the certificates of education for their members and how do they let DBPR know. All of that is addressed in the bill, but just sort of big picture, director education now is in Florida law. It has not been in Florida law before, and it's an important component so that people are able to, to carry out the fiduciary duty that they owe to their homeowners.
I'm just kind of pointing to
Yeah.
the aisles, and I have 90 days from when I got appointed to take a class, or I become ineligible to be on the boards. There is some sort of, I don't know if it's only to my building or if it's a general rule, but.
Well, the bill hasn't even.
90 days, and this started last month.
The bill hasn't even been signed yet, so let's work on timelines. I promise you a correct reading of the bill. You will have time to comply. Your certificate, after you complete your course, will go to DBPR. Your association will let DBPR know. My board has satisfied its education requirements. We're good to go. We have given everybody an ample time to comply. So there's not a gotcha or a 60-day deadline for a course that doesn't exist. I promise that the timeline is fair. Oh, this is through DBPR. Yeah. The next big issue, just because I'm looking at the clock and I just want to make sure that people have a sense of the other components of the bill. A lot of the bullying and really corrupt behavior that we saw when people would speak out, there was retaliation. There would even be defamation suits that would be financed by the association dollars. Just unacceptable. This is another one of those, I don't have condos in my area, but my gosh, what happens down here? You can't do that. And so the bill does not allow any association dollars to be expended to pursue a defamation action against an individual owner. We expand the SLAPP protections. There's express anti-retaliation. If you use proper channels to complain to a government official, to complain to your board, to exercise your rights as homeowners, association dollars are not going to be used to just grind you down in court. So that is in the bill as well.
What about
And then-
what about meetings? Meeting requirements? We're gonna
Just
get
give
to all of these
just give us
questions. We're
three
still
more
going
three
through
more
the bullet
minutes, and
points.
we're
Three
gonna go
more
nuts with
minutes.
questions.
I'm so close. I just want to make sure that everybody hears the different areas, and then we will do questions. I promise, I promise. There is meeting requirements in the bill as well. Condo boards must meet at least 4 times a year. We have heard about associations that weren't holding any meetings at all. You have to meet 4 times a year. You have to give updates on assessments and special assessments. If you've taken out loans or if you've had special assessments to complete a big project, the owners want to know what's happening. What's the status? Has the money been expended? Have we pulled permits? Building permits are now a part of the official record for that very reason. So you have to update and make sure that people are informed. So, and that has to happen 4 times a year. It doesn't need to be 4 separate distinct meetings, but 4 times a year, the board's going to have to meet and provide those updates and give people an opportunity to have their questions answered.
That's on top of the budget.
Yes, it is 4 meetings that have, that satisfy the requirements of that section, which is having an opportunity to question and get updates on specific things, which include what I just.
In addition to the required budget.
It's, we don't separate out. The bill says 4 times a year, you're going to have this notice meeting and give people the opportunity to ask questions and do all that. We don't specify whether or not it can or cannot be in conjunction with another meeting.
Can they ask anything? Because right now.
Yes.
Yes,
I need to give you a microphone.
Okay.
yeah.
I know you know how to behave.
Yeah, she asked, can they ask anything? And it is anything that they want to bring up.
Yes.
Yes, the bill says that you can ask questions, you can ask questions on the status of construction or repair projects, revenues and expenditures, and other condominium issues on, for assessments, the purpose, the cost of assessments, and copies of proposed contracts. So we really try to give an opportunity 4 times a year for owners to be able to know what's happening financially, with building projects, and the like. So that is an important piece of the bill. This is not every small change because there was some hurricane hardening. Lastly was with regard to DBPR. DBPR's jurisdiction pre-turnover was very broad. They could do, they had broad authority to be able to go in and address a bunch of different issues. But the existing law before this bill, once turnover happened, it was a very, very narrow lane for DBPR. And it had to, it was elections and records, but even then they only have 45 investigators throughout the state, and that includes all the other things that DBPR regulates, like auctioneers and barbershops and nail salons, and so the final thing that the bill did was it greatly expanded DBPR's jurisdiction. And it also included an almost $7 million recurring funds to hire 65 additional DBPR employees, many of which located here in South Florida, because they're not in my district, many of which here in South Florida, to be able to address, and I'll briefly spell them out. Sorry, my contacts are bad. Okay, it expands the jurisdiction to include financial records, annual financial reporting, broader scope for elections, access to records, procedural aspects of the meeting, quorums, votes, proxies, conflicts of interest that we just described, removal of board members, Because if you are charged with one of the criminal offenses that I described, you are deemed removed from office, and DBPR has its jurisdiction to remove you from office. Procedural completions of the structural integrity reserve studies, and any written inquiries by a unit owner in the association. So if you have a concern and you write a letter to DBPR and you spell out exactly what your issue is, your election issue, whatever your issue is, DBPR has the jurisdiction to go in and address the concern. You don't have to hire a private lawyer at your own expense to be able to run down things, statutory compliance issues that DBPR really should be doing. And it includes money for 65 additional staff. And so,
Wait, real quick. We're going to make one
Yeah.
quick, easy rule
But-
that we're going to take the questions, but just wait for your question until you get the microphone.
we're gonna go-
Because
we're gonna-
otherwise you can't.
We're gonna go in the order of
People-
hands. Go ahead. Right here. Yes. And then back there, and I know right there. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you very much for everything you've done. I'm one of 4 residents who are being sued for defamation by a corporation. The reason being, the defamation, when I first moved into where I live, I set up a thing called Community Voice, which was to give everybody a chance to meet. We started with about 6 people, we have about 200 now. And from that we do social clubs as well, but basically it was to be the bridge between us, the residents, and the board, so that we could send various suggestions, and also actually to hold them accountable, because we've had a number of things that we felt we had to hold them accountable for. It's an election time coming up, and sadly, our president and the lawyer, so in other words, the money we pay for our lawyer, we're suing ourselves. So we're about to head off to court. We don't have the money for a lawyer. We have spoken to many lawyers. We want to know what we do.
Have you been, just a couple of separation of branches here, have you been served with a complaint with an open lawsuit?
Fortunately, so far, we have.
Have you been served with a complaint? Is there an open lawsuit? Okay.
He's been knocking on the door.
All right, so we can't enter into the judicial branch of government if there's an open suit, but if there hasn't been one, Olivia's going to give you my number, and then we're going to see if we can resolve this tomorrow, okay?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Would this, just one question.
But ma'am, what I don't want to do is, if it's pending litigation, if it's open, if any of those issues, whatever, and then also, I'm going to be very candid with you if I think that some of this stuff as an attorney that you've been putting on Facebook is really distasteful and wrong, I'm going to tell you the same thing.
Oh, good.
Great,
Yeah.
so I'm happy to help you, and we'll go get on it tomorrow.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Next up there, and then we're going to go there. Madam, no, you were standing up first, go ahead. No, in the back with Evan, go ahead.
Thank you. So in regards to, I have to hold it. In regards to the bill be passing, number 1 should be education of a board member.
Yes.
And board members and directors.
It's in the bill.
Before they take position of directors, as a directors. Elections comes after, but mostly education of board members and directors. They need to know what fiduciary duty means, what transparency means. That's what I wanted to say.
We agree with you. In the blue shirt, rolled up sleeves, 4th in, left hand up, go. You were the 3rd.
My name's Ernie Vaca. I served on the board for 5 years. I hear a lot of people complaining they can't get their records. Correct me if I'm wrong, the Florida statute back in 2019 made a list of all the things that everybody needs to look for, with the exception of the new laws that you're making now. You're adding a few more things to it, sounds like. Why do we need a law when we already had a Florida statute? And supposedly, as if you didn't follow the statute, you could get fined. But yet, in them 5 years that this has been around, no one's ever audited us to even see if we had it done right.
Yeah, so nobody was enforcing anything. I'm going to be honest with you. At one point, when we had a town hall here 5 years ago, Lorenzo from DVPR was here. He was the most earnest one. He dropped dead of a heart attack on the job. Nobody does inspections. Nobody does reports. Senator Bradley spoke. Guys, I'm going to speak very plainly to you because in the future, what efficient condo quality of life and operation looks like does not include the DVPR for me. Okay? For too long, they said an issue would arise. You guys have, many of you in this room have come to me with binders and boxes full of great data that if I was a prosecutor, I would love. But the Economic Crimes Unit at the State Attorney's Office, where I worked as a prosecutor for many years, will tell you, well, it's not like Representative Lopez and Senator Bradley when they raise their right hand and take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the State of Florida and that of the United States, which includes a number of activities and actions that we cannot participate in. Board members have a general volunteer duty of fiduciary obligation. That's it. Okay? And so DVPR would say, well, this is not within our jurisdiction. And the State Attorney's Office would say, well, it's not, doesn't quite rise to the level of a crime. So there's a huge gray area that we look to close. And what we said was, not only is it closed now, but neither of you have any excuse or responsibility that you don't have the manpower, the resources, the money, the telephone lines, and the ability to go ahead and go after people. There should be nothing that falls outside of the cone of one of these two bodies. And that's what this does. And if, Ernie, if you tell me that a year from now that we've gone from 150 units down to 25 and you still can't get records 15 days later, that's a problem.
The only addition to the official records that the bill did is, it requires all of the records to be on the websites if you have 25 or more units. That should address a lot of issues if those are updated and maintained. But it does add to the financial records, invoices and other documentations that substantiate receipts and expenditures. So it broadens the scope of documents that would be considered records that a unit owner could see, that would really be helpful for a unit owner trying to understand whether or not they're valid expenses and were paid appropriately.
So what you're saying is, our normal financial record is a 6-page. It breaks down everything that we have that's been paid out for the month. The 98-page one that comes out, that doesn't go out to the full membership, is out there if you request it, but that has all the detail and probably has a lot of records.
Yeah, you're owed that. You're owed it. You should get it.
It'll be on the website. You don't necessarily have to, people don't have to ask for anything anymore. Once this bill passes, you go to the website, you can download them, review them. There's no reason for anyone to be fighting about access to records.
If I can get a MasterCard statement from January of 2015 on my iPhone, you should be able to look at your largest asset in your life and see those records. That's the philosophy behind it.
There's a lot of private information that's all
Absolutely, which gets redacted. Let me explain something.
It's not a public-facing website either. This is a password.
Username, password.
Username, password for unit owners. We're not putting it up on Facebook.
Yes. And they, yes.
Go ahead, Travis.
Yes, invoices are included, as you just heard, correct, and you are absolutely correct. We have a microphone coming.
Mark. Do this question
right
right
here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a Ventura resident and condominium resident for 24 years or more. I want to congratulate and thank for what you're doing, but let's not confuse movement with progress, you know. Until we have a DVPR enforcing this, as the senator alluded, this is movement, but there might be less progress than the movement that we hope. What I see as a recurring theme in the condominium situation is you got the management companies, you got the attorneys, you got the condominium board, and you got the shareholders, because the condominium is actually a corporation. The management companies have a contract where they are hold harmless by the condominium association. And in the contract say they serve at the pleasure and direction of the board. The manager is a licensed professional. I like to make the analogy of we're all in a bus. The manager is driving the bus. The people in the front of the bus are the board. And the people in the back of the bus is all the residents. When you see that the bus runs a stop, is one thing. When you see that the bus runs a red light is another thing. When you see that the bus is, running somebody over is another thing. But the manager will do whatever the board tells, then two entities always get it right. Management always make money. When they get fired, when they get hired, and the attorneys always make money.
But sir, we've also had many managers who have come to me in confidence because they've made recommendations and urged boards to do certain things for the safety of the building, and they were told, shut up or you lose your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there has been no outlet for those managers acting in good faith to go to, and now there is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you. I think this young lady here.
Oh, okay, thank you. My name is Donna. Thank you very much for everything. What's happening, I heard there was a bill introduced bipartisan regarding hurricane, for the whole state, that we would all contribute to a pool of money. And that would probably help lower our insurance.
So there's been a few bills that have been tinkered about. One this past session from your colleague, Representative Roach. We were approached by a rating agency, the Weiss agency actually, and Maggie, my chief of staff, and I, we met with them up in Palm Beach. The idea was to make all of the wind policies go to citizens. And then let the other admitted market and even surplus market be able to go ahead and write policies to lower it. If the political will is finally there, we'll get some insurance stuff done this year. Nothing substantial passed with insurance. I made one amendment to a bill that was going to require that surplus lines. How many of you have citizens? Okay. So I don't know if you remember this, but last year I was really upset because they put the requirement in that if you're in a flood zone, even if you're the 20th story of a building, you have to have flood insurance. Yeah. So I screamed and yelled. You laughed about it, but I screamed and yelled and said, this is ridiculous. I live on the 25th floor of a building. I need flood insurance. It was a way to get rid of people out of citizens. When the citizen CEO asked to meet with me in the district, I said, great. He said, where's your office? Where are we meeting? I said, we're going to meet at my condo. And we served lunch. Travis, you were there. And he goes, wow, this is so beautiful. I didn't bring you to look at the inside and the furnishings. I brought you here because I brought a bunch of people from the community and stakeholders to show him the buildings that can and can't get insured, the issues, the problems, master associations, towers, to get an understanding of it. The greatest point I want to explain to all of you guys about everyone thinking politicians are all crooked is he sat down and I said, I got to ask you, Tim, you sent me over what the maximum rate schedule was that's allowable as a premium. It was $28,000. Broward has a different cap, and Miami-Dade's capped at $1 million in coverage. I have 2 condos in Sunny Isles. I have $1 million in coverage on both of them. I don't have a mortgage on either one, but I don't trust a lot of construction problems, so I have citizens for both. I said, you sent me a rate schedule that said the maximum policy rate is $28,000. He goes, yes, I did. I go, great. Why am I paying $36,000 a year for homeowners? It's for an HO6 policy. He goes, Senator, we have no idea. I go, do you know how bad it looks that you're the CEO of Citizens Insurance Company of Florida? Your maximum published rate that you can charge somebody for $1 million of coverage on an HO6 is $28,000, and the state senator for this district whose dining room table you're sitting at is paying $36,000 a year. He goes, we really need to dig into it and take a look. I go, how many thousands of my constituents are subsidizing your crappy written policies elsewhere in the state? He said, we need to look into it, okay? Nothing really substantively happened on insurance. And I'll tell you why, folks. This is why Senator Silvers can speak to this. It's easier to go to 3 or 4 people in Tallahassee and give them $50,000 to $100,000 PAC and campaign checks than it is to convince the 564,000 residents we have each. There are very few good souls that don't have larceny in their heart. This is why it becomes nonpartisan on these issues about your safety and quality of life. But the truth of the matter is, Representative Lopez's colleague last year who passed the insurance bill is the general counsel for an insurance company. How consumer friendly is that? I did an amendment this year on another bill that was going to require that you physically have to be in your condo unit for 9 months or more out of the year in order to be eligible to be taken out by another surplus lines carrier from your citizens policy. I shortened it back to 6 months, which tracks and follows everything else. Next. Green shirt.
And that gentleman back there will be after that because He's had his hand up for a long, long, long time and hasn't asked anything yet.
Hi, my name is Eileen Hassan. I'm in Hollandale Beach. And I have a question. You're protecting the board, but the reason why good people don't go on the board is because the opposite. They get criticized, they get bullied, they get constantly harassed. Is there anything to protect people that are on boards that are getting harassed from past board members?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'd love to see legislation on that as well.
Sure. So I know this is going to sound, I'm not trying to be flippant about this, but if I asked you to list the top complaints that board members have about their interaction with residents, like, listen, I'm just a volunteer, I'm doing this in good faith. A lot of it has to do with access to records, or I want to see this, or what are you spending money on, blah, blah, blah. If you were able to say, Eileen in Hallandale, listen, I got nothing on me, it's all up on the web. It's all up there. 100% of your building, all of the information is up there. So give the microphone back to Eileen. What's the number one complaint that you hear from residents then?
I'm not on the board, my husband is.
Right.
Facebook, for residents, we can't even get the Facebook account. And people are putting defamation on board members. Very frustrating. It's a volunteer position.
Do you know who your state senator is?
I do not, I'm sorry.
I'm your state senator.
Oh, I will talk to you after this.
Eileen, do you have your phone?
I do.
Send me a text right now. My cell phone number is 305.
Everyone's taking it down.
Good.
Yeah,
Everybody should take it down.
you have mine.
305 505. You have my cell phone number. 8478. Okay? I really, where's Maggie? Maggie, stand up for a second. 305-505-8478. Maggie's in the dark navy shirt and white pants. Maggie and I used to investigate and prosecute homicides in Miami-Dade County. We don't like bullies. So call me tomorrow, text me tonight, and I want to social media troll with you. All the way at the far on the right there.
Oh.
And then the guy in the back, I know.
No, the guy in the back.
Yes, you. Yes, ma'am.
Olivia's handling that. She said we're good. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we're gonna need a microphone. Hold on. It's coming. It's coming.
Wait.
All right, thank you. Okay.
When Champlain Towers fell down, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was on TV a lot, and she, I believe, was trying to put forth legislation that every board should have a contractor or an engineer or an architect on the board, even if you have to pay to have that. I never heard another thing about that. That's question one. Number two is, I don't know if any of our board members, whoever knows me, are here tonight. They're at a party at our building, and they knew about this meeting, and there's some community thing at our building.
They kept playing the music when the Titanic was sinking too.
Sorry?
They played really nice music when the Titanic was sinking too.
Yeah, so how do they find out about all this? Do you send them information, or they have to then find it for themselves?
Well, were you here when I gave out the website? Yeah, get that to them. Then they will not be able to say they don't have the information. So deputize yourself to give them the information. Regarding Congresswoman Watchman Schultz's legislation, that did not go anywhere. She may still be, I don't know if you've noticed, Congress doesn't really get a whole lot done real quickly. So that is not something that has passed or anything yet at this point.
Are you friends?
But folks, this does require a little, and I didn't mean to be flippant, I didn't mean to be sarcastic with Eileen, but I just want to be very clear about something. We're talking about what is presumably your largest asset, okay? It's certainly my largest individual asset is my home, okay? But this is what I want to explain to you. Democracy requires a little participation and a little engagement. And I teach 7th graders civics classes once in a while. I love to do it. Eileen, I'm speaking to you directly about this, okay? Closest to your home is your city mayor and commission. You heard from your city mayor tonight, Howard Weinberg. Margie's here on behalf of your county commissioner, Mickey Steinberg. I'm here on behalf of your statewide elected officials from the Senate or the state, at the state level, right? And texting today, even with your congressional and your federal level, we're all like in this bullseye and in this ring. And our utility and our purpose is to go ahead and try to do what we can at our level or impress upon those inside of that circle to do what they're supposed to do. A little before I got here, Mayor Weinberg called me about a pool issue at a particular building in Aventura, right? But that's the interplay and how we're supposed to be working together. If the people are at the party, I don't begrudge them for being at a party and celebrating right now, but if they're legitimately concerned, they should know who the people are, the players are, that can affect change in their life, in their livelihood. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's not a knock against Eileen that she doesn't know who her state senator is, but I think she learned tonight, oh my God, I can actually text my state senator. But honestly, who's your state senator? I know you know, but who's your state senator? Exactly.
Okay. All right, wait.
I got you.
But she has not asked yet, and you did, so can we let her ask one and then get back to you? Please. Microphone coming. All right.
I'm Deanna Reeves, and I've actually met Senator Bradley, Senator Pizzo, and my representative, Vicky Lopez, back in July at their first town hall meeting where I expressed my concerns. I met them again in September at the conference at Surfside, and I've met individually with them and their staff. So it is our most important asset, and we need to get involved, regardless of what it is. And it does take a lot of education. I learned a lot. Ale, your staffer, explaining how to follow the bills and committees. I participated, listened to every committee meeting that both the Senate bill and the state bill went through. And I called every single member of the committees that spoke, and I thanked them for their concern. But it's really up to us, and it's really about getting to know your neighbors and to make change within our own little community, which is our condominium. And I'm hoping that I can sue for defamation for something that's been happening for the last 2 years, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but we'll see.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yes, sorry. Okay. My question goes back to the electronic voting. In our particular building, an election is scheduled, I believe it's for April 2nd. Okay. 20 to 30% of the occupants of the building live in foreign countries. The board, as I had said to you before, I don't mean to be redundant, and I appreciate everything you're doing. However, this is an ongoing problem with us where they pay their maintenance the same as we do, and they cannot vote. The board refuses to do this. So my question to you is, can we insist that this election be put in May so that the two, whatever has to go out before the election is done properly, so these people will have an opportunity to exercise a vote?
I'll tell you what I'm doing in my district, and hopefully maybe Senator Pizzo can help. When I hear things like this before the bill goes into effect, I'm actually making an appointment with the boards. I'm actually saying I want to meet with all the boards and the property manager. That sometimes gets people's attention, because I'm going to ask the same question. Currently, they have the option to send electronic ballots and do electronic voting. They're choosing not to because they can either do it by mail or by electronic. So I'm going to face them and say, why aren't you doing electronic voting? It does make a difference. So maybe Senator Pizzo wants to go talk to your people or somebody, because honestly, they get scared when I say I'm coming.
Just after me, just tell me after the meeting, not now, who your management company is. And last year, a couple years ago, Maggie and I had to go around delivering ballot envelopes to units because a couple of buildings in Aventura, all of a sudden, the management company said they ran out of envelopes. Yeah.
Right here, yes, ma'am.
Senator, I'd like to thank you and your staff.
Good to see you again.
Yes, at the last meeting that you had in Hallandale.
In
Beach,
Hallandale Beach,
Yes,
and I
in
didn't see Eileen,
Hallandale
I didn't see Eileen at the Hallandale Beach meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
You told me to contact your office because we could not get our 2022 year-end statement or audit. And I got a hold of Joanne, and Joanne went to bat. And last night, there was a board meeting, and the president issued a statement, and they voted on it, and we're getting our 2022. And we're now in
Excellent.
2024,
We are.
okay? So now we gotta work on the 2023.
Joanne, get on it.
But thank you, because they did a hell of a job.
You got it.
You
Nice.
keep your word. You told them, and you did it.
I love German Shepherds. You kind of,
Even more.
I love that dog.
Okay, so transparency is, I think, the number one concern everywhere. If we had transparency, I think we would eliminate the vast majority of these issues. And here's what I would like to, I have a few points that we're experiencing, but I'm sure other communities are experiencing as well. Communication between owners. How could the owners get together and effect change when they cannot communicate with each other? And I'm talking about having access to owners' emails. The association is gathering those emails from owners one by one, and never, I'm talking about property manager and the association, the board, never informs those owners that, hey, there are two ways to provide that email. One is just provide that email, and one is for official notices. No, there is complete silence in getting these emails, and when you ask for it, oh, nobody provided, but then you ask other people, and everybody's gonna say, sure, I gave my email, so I could get.
And that changes in the law. That is a very good, that's what, wait, I just want to hit on that one, and then you can go to the next one. So that says, the bill now says it allows email addresses and fax numbers, if anybody still has a fax number, to be accessible to all unit owners if consent to receive documents has been given. So that one, done.
Yeah, that one done. Board members themselves don't have access to invoices. Directors, presidents of sub-association don't have access to invoices. Everything goes to, you have to look at the structure, HOAs that govern condominiums. We are in a big trouble there. And having everything in the hands of one, and then elections. How can you have elections, how can you allow elections to be influenced by a property manager that is mired in conflict of interest? How can you allow a property manager to come with a pre-filled ballot and ask people to sign and vote a certain way and not have that as a criminal, some kind of penalty? Or and then meetings only on Zoom. Do we still have meetings only on Zoom where somebody can just cut you off when you ask questions? I mean, is that legal at the condo and at the HOA level?
There was an HOA issue, and I was just trying to find the HOA, because there was an HOA bill that passed as well.
Okay, so we have this structure.
No, she's a condo. She's a 718, not 720.
You're 718?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
We are two 718s, and on top it's a 712, the master. The master, all our, 75% of our dues go to the master, which is a 720. ACs, lobbies, major part of our costs. And all of our amenities, but not only structural.
Okay.
So we're basically an HOA. We are building a condo, but legally we are an HOA.
Okay. Well, I'll get with you as well, because there is a 720 bill that passed as well, that will deal with the master that you talked about, the umbrella, and then the 718 reforms would deal with the two condos. Okay?
I understand, I still think there are gaps, but
Okay, sure, well, trust me. Yes, there's gaps. Okay. Can you wait till we get a microphone?
Sure, go ahead.
Just wait.
Go ahead.
Just because everybody's going to say they can't hear you, and I can't even hear you. So, hold on, let this gentleman go. He hasn't asked anything yet. Then we'll get a microphone back to her. this gentleman who's asked one, we'll have him ask. You've asked a bunch, but we'll let you ask again. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Brad.
Hey, Brad.
I live here in Aventura in Point East.
Okay.
First of all, so refreshing to see elected officials going out of their way, staying late, answering questions, serving their public. Thank you very much. And some shout outs to Mayor Howard and our city commissioners and future governor of the state of Florida, Mr. Pizzo, maybe, let's hope. I'll volunteer immediately when you decide to run. So in full disclosure, I am running for the board of my condominium association.
What's wrong with you, man?
Little touched.
Gotcha.
I'm about to retire, need something else to do, I guess, so. But I'm a little still unclear on what the requirements are for reserves. Because, you know, my association's waived and waived and waived and waived and waived. Now we owe $1 zillion, we have no money in the bank. And I've lost track of where the law is on that particular thing. Thank you all. Sure.
So where we are currently on reserves is the structural integrity reserve study has to be completed by the end of '24. The budget that you adopt in 2025, which will presumably be sort of your '26 budget, that budget needs to include the reserve funds that are reflected in that SERS. So you reserve SERS in '24. The budget you adopt in '25 is going to have to reflect the reserves, you know, stated in the SERS for your '26 budget. Your reserve items, the SERS items can be pooled, but nothing else. The SERS and non-SERS, did that answer your question, the timeline? Was that your question on the timeline?
But we can't wait.
Oh, that is correct. And just to be clear, Florida law always required reserves. This was not the first time Florida required. We always required, but we required waiver by a majority of people present at the meeting, which could have been a very, very small. And so you cannot waive the SERS items. You can waive non-SERS items, but now by a much higher threshold.
So. Yeah.
So did you take
Yes.
that? Did you take
Yeah,
down my
and
cell phone
that's-
number?
And
Okay,
it's for
just-
3-story and up.
If you send me a text or an email or ask my staff for a card, I will send you the entire bill analysis that breaks down each section of this bill.
So I just want to tell everyone, has anyone here in this, other than my Icon folks from Brickell, has anyone else done their SERS? Okay, let me just tell you why, because I had the privilege of reviewing the SERS report from Icon. And it is not just the structural integrity reserve study, which is what I thought. The SERS report that they got was every repair that they'd have to make. So it was extremely confusing. And so I would tell you that it was, how many pages do you think this report was? 66 pages, and you had to call through it to find just the SERS section. So don't be confused, because the first page showed so many millions of dollars that I said, oh my God, they're right. It's untenable. But then we had to parse down, find the SERS, the 8 items that the law says you must reserve for. So I caution everyone, ensure that you know what the SERS report looks like, because I'd never seen one. And when they sent me theirs, I was shocked. It is, I don't know how anyone can really understand it, 66 pages worth of how every single little thing in your building, but it did not just say, this is the structural integrity reserve element, and this is how much you have to reserve for.
And in the bill last year, we required that every owner get a copy of the milestone inspection, but we did not realize, and it was our intent last year, but apparently we didn't expressly state that every homeowner should also get a copy of the completed SERS. Right. This bill does that. Every owner will have to get a copy, either electronically or upon request, to get a copy of that completed SERS.
Regarding,
Testing.
regarding the reserves, so if you're 3 stories and under, it's not mandatory to have a reserve fund? Or it is?
above.
3 stories and up.
3 stories and up, you have to have reserves. So 3 stories and under, you do not have.
No,
to have
One and two.
it effectively means 2 stories and less.
2 stories.
Yeah.
Clarify, you still have to have
But you
reserve,
still have
Yes.
to have reserves.
not the SERS reserve.
What the 4 things you've always had to have reserves for, you still have to have those. Roofing, paving, painting, and it's gonna be more than $10,000 to replace.
Your microphone's on.
I haven't seen the,
And you can still waive all of those after January 1 of 2025, but it's just the only change that was made is the threshold to waive them is now a majority of all the unit owners. So if you have 100, but I heard something about we don't have to have any reserves. That's not true. You can waive them, but you have to have a majority of the owners would have to waive them or reduce them. All right, wait, we have to get back on track. I know we had a bunch of people back here, so hold on one second. We have this gentleman.
May I?
Yes,
May I?
you go. Yes, and then this young lady back there. Yes.
Yeah, I wish you would clarify the waiving rights this year, because I've been told up until, if you waive before the end of the year, December 30th, 31st, that condos can still waive reserves. But now you're saying, sort of, that, well, they can't waive the SERS part.
That's correct. You cannot waive. Remember, if you haven't done your SERS yet, you're not doing any, you haven't.
To be clear, we haven't done SERS.
No, right, so you're not reserving for the SERS. You're reserving the way you normally would have reserved.
We don't normally reserve.
You can still waive.
That's what's confusing. At our building, we don't normally reserve, okay?
Okay, by statute.
I don't know how many others do, and
By statute, you were.
I just want to know what the law is.
The law is that you have to reserve for certain items.
No, you don't. You can waive them.
The law says.
I want to know how.
Yes,
the
you
waiver.
may. You may waive those reserves.
Well, that's,
No,
which ones?
Which
ones?
Okay, there are 2 types of reserves. The structural integrity reserve study cannot be waived. Whatever comes out of that report that says this is the structural integrity reserve, and it tells you what the assessments are, you cannot waive those. You must start reserving.
At what date?
All the SERS have to be done by December 31st, 2024. And beginning on January 1st of 2025,
Wait, she interrupted me. Could you please repeat?
Yes.
While you were talking, she interrupted me.
Okay.
Interrupted you, I mean.
No, that's okay. Everyone must have their structural.
The dates again, please.
Yes, the structural integrity reserve studies must be completed by December 31st of 2024, the end of this year.
Yes.
Beginning next year, on or after January 1st of 2025, any budget that you pass must include those reserves from the structural integrity reserve study.
Yeah, you're talking about after, I'm talking about before the end of the year.
Correct.
You're just talking about, right now, you're mentioning after.
Correct, so that's one set.
I want to talk about,
Yes.
I want to hear the clarification on before January.
Yes,
The rights of waiving and the SERS.
Yes.
And the exact date, not January,
before,
December, but January.
no.
Be specific.
No, before December 31st of 2024, you're passing budgets now, right? You are required.
We have till the end of the year.
Okay, so at the end of the year, whatever you put into your budget on reserves can be waived, yes.
Fair. So it can be waived.
Those, not the SERS. You're going to reserve for 2 different things. You're going to reserve for the structural integrity.
When is the deadline for the SERS?
December 31st of 2024.
By the end of this year, sir, you got to have your SERS done. Beginning January 1st on New Year's Day, when you wake up. Sir, listen. You
have the SERS.
want the answer, or you want to hear yourself talk?
When is the reserves for the SERS?
Get it done by New Year's Eve, because January 1st, the next day on New Year's Day.
We've answered this like 3 times. The budget you adopt in 2025 is going to include what is set forth in your SERS that is due by the end of the year.
Okay, so it's also
You get your SERS in 24, it's in your 25 budget. It is not more complicated than that. 24 SERS, 25, it's in the budget.
After?
Right.
Okay.
So,
Wait, hold on for a second.
Wait. She's gonna ask with the mic, and we're getting mic. Yes, great, thank you. Yes,
Okay.
all right, so hold on, because she's already starting, and then it's you, for sure.
in 2018, I was elected to the board, and there were 2 other board members. One of them had large amount in the $35,000 due.
Okay.
I made a complaint to the GPPR about that, and the GPPR said that she has to be removed from the board. When the complaint went through, somehow miraculously, it was okay for her to continue being a board member. Later on, she became a president. The camp manager was her best friend. She stopped paying the monthly dues, and the camp manager did not report it. So that was, the lady was working for the GPPR. The board member who owned 35,000 worked for the GPPR. When I went to follow up with my complaint, she walked out from the office with the investigator on the same case. And not to top it off, because I was reviewing financials, doing my due diligence, I was accused of harassing the board member and the manager, and we had Becker, who was our
When's your next board meeting?
So next board, we don't.
All right, when you find out when your next board meeting is, invite our office to come. Okay?
Okay, we have elections coming up in April, and one of the present board members sent an email to all residents telling them who to vote for. Okay, is that allowed, and what can we do about that?
All right, is your issue with the fact that he or she had access to everyone's emails to go ahead and basically campaign, and anyone that might have been running against them doesn't have access to those same email accounts, right?
You got it. I'm a present board member right now.
Senator Bradley?
The only way you're going to be able to have access to, he has to have the consent of the owners to have their, right.
So for a long time, and this goes for every single association, I've seen it in 4 different languages, because of the privilege of serving as a board member with email addresses that are supposed to be used for official board business and building business, they have an incredible power of incumbency in that role, because they have that same Glenn Ross list, basically. And they basically use that list to go ahead and campaign on it. And I have always thought that it's in a sense of fairness and impartiality. If you're going to use it for the purposes of advancing your own personal position, then everyone should have access to it, right? And I've had very good success on an individual basis, telling boards and buildings that. If you have an email from your board president that went out to everybody about who to vote for or voting, and you know of another candidate in your building who does not have that same access, I really want to know that, okay? And then I want the president of your building, hold on, but I don't represent you. The buildings in my district, when they have an individual problem, I would like to meet with I will go over and knock on the president's door and explain why the other candidates can't have the same email access. And I would like for him to give me a legal reason as to why, if he's going to assert that he has a special privilege because he serves as a board member, to have access for campaign purposes.
We're gonna go here, and then we're gonna start we're 35 minutes over, so just be thinking about wrapping it up a little bit. So we're gonna go there, here, and then to you.
Great, thank you. I'll make this very quick. My question has to do with apartment buildings. I want to know if there's anything that you guys are working on in the future to hold apartment buildings the same regard as HOAs and condos?
I'll take this one, and it's very quick, and the reason is no, and I'll tell you why. You have one individual owner who has a number of units. My family is actually pretty large apartment owners in the Northeast. We are innately incentivized to maintain the integrity and the quality of life of the community because we have to market and rent it. And it's one particular owner. We have to, and we reserve for roof, windows, doors, appliances, so on and so forth. It's also a condition of a lot of our permanent loan structure that we have with banks, right? So the principal reason, underlying reason for my first bill 5 years ago came out of a grand jury report. And then it was exacerbated, obviously, and brought to the forefront by 98 souls being lost in Surfside, because everyone has really enjoyed the benefit of the economies of scale of living in a condo and none of the burden that goes along with having to actually be accountable for it. And it's a middle school student government association that runs these buildings very often. It's got the same cattiness and gossip at recess, right? Around the pool and the parking garage instead of the playground and the classroom, but it's the same. And to remain popular and get reelected, you artificially suppress the association fees, deferred the maintenance of the building, and compromise the integrity and safety of the people that live inside of those. As an apartment building owner in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that's my family, my kids, and my grandkids' investment. I'm going to take care of it. I have to take care of it. I can't rent it and market. I'm sorry? There are absolutely a lot of slumlords, and it's your state attorney's responsibility. When I was there for the last couple of years, we went after slumlords because I had young kids getting shot and killed. So I went after slumlords. We shut buildings down, right? Here, folks, let me explain something to you. It's not just joking with Eileen that she didn't know I was her state senator. You got to demand more of your government, man. You're really, the ribbon cuttings are great and the Instagram selfies and all that shit. But that's not going to save your life and protect your life. I love coming to Aventura. Your commissioners and your mayor, they actually care about you. I have a lot of cities that I've represented in the past. They don't care. They have a citizens panel for this and a panel for that. It's to placate you so they don't have to do their job and address the issue head on. Okay, there's a reason why this is, I think, the 5th town hall in Aventura. Demand more, expect more. I work for you. I have a really cool license plate in the back of my car because you elected me to, not Eileen, but you elected me to serve in this role. So invite me to your board meeting. Send me the Facebook post. I'm so inextricably intertwined in your building issue, from the 27 parking spots to the chains in front of the restaurant. I get it. I know. Much more important. So expect more, Ernie, expect more from me. You had no idea who I was when you got here.
We're going to go here.
Go ahead.
You
have the microphone. Go.
No, we got to go here, then we go there, then we're going to go to this side. Or that.
Senator Bradley, there used to be 9, now there's only 8. What are the 8 required? Senator Bradley took out foundations because it's a little ridiculous that you were having to reserve for foundations under buildings. You have the 8.
I don't have my
8. We have
roof, painting and waterproofing, windows and...
Travis, you have this.
Roof, painting and waterproofing, windows and doors, and I will also then add the caveat, and this goes for any of it, but particularly applies to windows and doors, if it's the responsibility of the association. The association does not have to reserve for things that's not their responsibility to, if it's the owners, that's them. How many is that now? 4? 3, electric systems, plumbing systems, anything that catch all, anything that's going to be over $10,000. Structural, so like load-bearing walls, columns, those kinds of things. And again, you do not have to be putting money aside to replace them. At no point in any of the reserve studies you will get, there will never be a reserve schedule to replace the columns in floor 1 this year, because that's not happening. You have to have money to maintain them, to maybe if there's some concrete restoration, et cetera. But again, for any of the components, it's just, and then anything, not the elevator. Cooling systems and air conditionings, but I know the elevator's not in there. Wait. No, there's one that we got 7. It's not pool. It's not paving.
All right, we're good.
Guys,
Fire protection.
It's fire protection, plumbing, electrical. Foundations used to be in there, but you're not going to reserve for that because you're not going to be replacing the foundation or the.
But there is structural.
Okay, but there is structural as it relates to columns and other load-bearing walls and things that are items that are over $10,000 or more. Okay, not HVAC, not pool,
right?
Not elevator, and not the new marble on your lobby.
Okay, over here.
Okay, I'm quick, I'm organized. First comment, 3 questions. Electronic voting. The reason we have gone to our directors and asked for electronic, my building not, but my other condo, Brickell Place, which one are you? Okay, the board directors will say, oh, but it's risky, their fraud can occur there, so that's the excuse. My comment to you, thank you so much for what you've done on these bills. I beg you, please make electronic voting mandatory. Okay. Okay, quick question, you mentioned records law does not go into effect January 2026? You mentioned, earlier took notes, records law does not go into effect.
No, the website.
No, the website.
Oh,
The
okay.
website, we.
Okay, that's all I needed, thank you. One other question, when there is a violation, we go to DBPR. Currently, right now, I still can't get records. Under condo law, it says they have to pay a penalty to me, $100 a day up to whatever, 5 or 10 days. How do I go about getting that? How does a unit owner go about getting that? And lastly, what do we do about other blatant violations? For example, I was on my master board, Pizzo knows it. I was illegally kicked off. Why? Because I told my master board, what you're doing is wrong, please, very politely, we need to do this, this, and that. This is the law. They kicked me out. Just did whatever they, what recourse do I have?
The jurisdiction of DBPR has been greatly expanded. They've got 65 more full-time employees. Their jurisdiction covers more issues. If you have a written request or a written complaint from the owner to DBPR, they cannot hide under, we don't have jurisdiction to do it. And so reach out, and if you can't get any relief, reach out to one of us, and we're there for reinforcement. Because they have the duty and the obligation to get you your documents.
Your particular situation and your particular building and master association was one that, I think Maggie can attest this as well, was one that the state attorney's office wished they had jurisdiction over and didn't. And that a state agency, an administrative one at that, something like DBPR, was finding every excuse and every reason not to have to get involved because it was just kind of icky.
It's getting worse.
We have two more, there's gonna be 2 more, and that's it, right
Get the
here
doc back.
and right here.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
And then the rest, you can talk to, later, but.
I have a quick question.
We're already 45 minutes
I'm the president of my
over.
board in Miami Beach. We asked for our budget to be done for this year from December. We requested it every month. We had to fire our management company. Do we have any recourse as of today? Or not really?
Can you see me after about who your management company is? Yep. Shh. Here's the thing. I believe that you should be able to confront your accuser on certain stuff. So the reason why I don't ask for people to name names or companies or buildings, because that person's not here to say that's not true. You know what I mean? So, but I'm happy to look into it tomorrow and yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, it's gonna be him? Okay.
Just to close on a future note, Senator indicated that, enforcement was an issue with DVPR. For instance, I believe that many of the laws that are in place now are fine, but they're not enforced. Our condominium doesn't have a audited financial statement for the past year, and, it's nonsense. But the senator indicated that you see a better future perhaps with something other than DBPR in condominium, and I'd like to have a little bit more of a.
Yeah, so God willing, if I'm reelected this year, I am the incoming minority leader of the Florida Senate Democrats. The incoming Senate President, Republican Ben Albritton, and we can get along. He leans very heavily on Senator Bradley for a number of issues. No one is impressed by the performance of DBPR. And We are limited by the Florida state constitution about the number of state agencies that can exist, so we can't like sever it off and create a new one. I actually filed a bill this year, this past session, that would have transferred the Department of Business Professional Regulations condo section to the Attorney General's office, because I thought that there were so many flagrant violations. It at least got the conversation started. The worst kept secret in Tallahassee is I file a bill and 1 or 2 years later, someone else puts their name on it from the other side of the aisle and it passes. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. But it's not okay when it's a bill that would have saved someone's life. So 4 years ago, I started filing a bill to provide Narcan in schools so kids wouldn't overdose. And for 2 years, they wouldn't hear it. And then last year, they passed the bill to provide it, and everyone clapped and said, this is such a good idea, why didn't we think of this earlier? That's the part that sucks about this process. So I see a world where your nail technician, your structural engineer, and your property manager are not supervised and chaperoned by the same agency. Just doesn't make sense.
Okay, thank you all for coming. You all have homework to do. Go to that website that I gave at the beginning and you can get the summaries of all of this.